Next Chapter Podcasts.
In this episode, we swear about the usual amount, and of course, there's some death in there too, but it's also honest and very real. And when you think about it, would this podcast be the same show without it? You can find more information like specific content warnings in the show notes. By the way, if you have a story of family secrets or darkly funny drama that you want to share, we want to hear it. Email us at everybodyknowspod@gmail.com. We'll keep you completely anonymous if you want, and only publicize details you feel comfortable sharing with the world.
Everybody Knows But Me is brought to you by the Tony the Tiger Legal Defense Fund and Corn. From gas to drywall to gummy bears, you better believe we make everything out of that shit. Our show is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Give me a Vikings funeral and the MGM Grand Lazy River, you cowards! All right, that's been my time. Give it up for your hosts and all the comics you saw tonight. Thanks to the Chortle Hut for having me. You can hardly tell that it definitely used to be a Pizza Hut. Maybe more comedy clubs should have bright red trapezoidal roofs. Anyway, thanks for supporting live comedy.
Oh my God, Holly, that was amazing! You were brilliant. I've never heard that joke about Casper the Friendly Ghost before. Or should I say, the horny ghost?
Thanks, sis. What can I say? That movie, and especially Devon Sawa, made me feel things.
Incredible! And to do it in front of so many people? I don't know how you don't get stage fright. I would be mortified.
Mom, we don't have to get into specifics right now, but we all know that we've lived through way scarier things than the audience at the Chortle Hut.
How come you didn't use any puppets or, smash any watermelons? You were pretty good, but if it were me, I would have had a huge mallet on stage just for that. Matter of fact, how come none of these other comedians thought of that?
Believe it or not, bud, there's already a guy who does that, and he's way more famous and relevant than I'll ever be. Seriously though, guys, I just want to say how much it means to me that you all showed up tonight to support me. I just wish Dad were still here so that he could...
Excuse me. I just wanted to say, you're good and all, but you probably should have humped that stool when you did that joke about the dead kid, right?
I guess that just comes down to personal preference?
Yeah, normally I'd say women aren't funny, but hey, maybe we could, write together. A lot of my coworkers tell me I should do stand-up.
Oh, do guys normally act this sleazy to you in front of their girlfriends? Or do they usually wait until they're in the bathroom?
Believe it or not, both!
I think it's actually pretty generous of my boyfriend to offer you help. He's literally so funny, and it seems like you could really use it.
What an exceptionally rude thing to say to someone you paid money to come see.
Well, I don't know how they pick their headliners here at the Chortle Hut, but personally, I like comedy that's actually jokes, not weird stories about death and how hard it was to grow up poor or whatever.
And so what, right? Life's hard. Get over it. I mean, probably wasn't even really as bad as she's trying to make it seem.
Not that bad?
Don't worry, guys. I got this. Folks, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy yourselves. Can I ask what kind of comedy you do normally like?
I don't know, stuff about dating, crowd work, maybe watermelons getting smashed with a big mallet.
See?
Dude, I love edgy stuff, roast battles where people say fucked up stuff about race. Dude, it's a comic's job to push the envelope.
I mean, that's the beauty of comedy. There's something for everybody. Maybe sharing the dark parts of my life is too much for some people. Obviously, empathy is something some people have less of than others.
You don't know my life, Skid Row Barbie, and I'm literally an empath.
But babe, we both grew up in Bel Air. In high school, you used to have your chauffeur sit out in the parking lot with the AC on and your dad's Bentley running all day so your Pomeranian wouldn't overheat.
I know that I've been through a lot, and it might make it harder for some to relate, especially for people who lived really different lives. But if making jokes about very real things I've struggled with helps even one person get through whatever messed up thing they're going through, even the slightest bit, I think I did pretty damn well at my job.
Another woke comedian that's gonna go broke. Or should I say, stay broke?
Great stuff tonight, as always, Holly. Really love the new bit about your dead dad. Mine died about 6 months ago, and this is the first time I've cried from laughing since then.
We're so out of here, babe. These people are weirdos.
Totes. Oh, by the way, Holly, I will be stalking you on Instagram now, but I won't ever like, share, or write a positive comment on anything you ever post.
Wow, honey, you handled those jerks perfectly. I'm so proud.
Yeah, Hall. By the way, have you thought about a catchphrase? Like, got her did, or bazinga?
Sure, Carson, I'll get right on that.
While making this podcast, one of the compliments I've heard the most is, "You're such a great storyteller," or "Wow, what a story," which is incredibly kind, truly. For a girl who grew up with very little encouragement from anyone around her and a constant fear that nothing would ever get better, every compliment still makes me feel a little like Wayne and Garth.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
But to tell you the truth, something about the word story keeps catching in my throat. And honestly, this whole time I've been struggling to choke it down. I couldn't put my finger on why until I brought it up in therapy, where my therapist hit me with one of those observations that instantly reminds you why you're paying them in the first place. You might remember in my very chill, very calm rock bottom episode that one of my biggest fears growing up wasn't just that nobody would help me. It was that nobody would believe me. Specifically, me. That if I told people what was happening in my house, I'd be dismissed as dramatic, attention-seeking, exaggerating, or worse, making the whole thing up. My mom planted that seed early, and every increasingly ridiculous thing that happened after kept watering it. Even now, if somebody else pitched this story to me, I'd probably think, maybe cool it with all the jaw-dropping plot twists. But that fear, that people wouldn't believe me, has followed me around everywhere. I remember it showing up outside my house, too. When I was a teenager, I went to a comedy show where they asked for an audience volunteer with a crazy story. Naturally, I shot my hand into the air because gestures broadly, "Have you met this podcast?" And I got picked. The headline I said that did it was, "I was banned from Canada for 4 years," which, to be fair, is an absolutely killer headline. But suddenly, I was on stage with comedians I genuinely admired, like Paul Scheer and Rob Hubel, and they were asking questions so they could improvise from the details of my story. And sitting there, I didn't know something then that I'd eventually learn over and over again through my own experiences as a comedian. The funny version and the literal version of a story are not the same thing. But the emotional truth underneath it needs to be. The literal version of my story wasn't just this salacious headline. It was about fear and a desperate desire to get out of my situation. About being 14 years old and running away so far from home that another country had to intervene. Now you might be thinking, Holly, you ran away to Canada? You've told us about your whole life. Are we gonna get this story or what? Well, I am all about honesty, folks. But the Canada story remains under lock and key for now. A girl's gotta have some mystery.
Zoinks!
That truth wasn't ready for a comedy show yet. So I pivoted.
Pivot!
I told the funny version and kept the saddest parts to myself. After the show, while everyone was filing out, I overheard somebody behind me say, I don't know why that girl just lied to get on stage. And it crushed me. Because I didn't lie. But I couldn't tell the truth either. The truth was too complicated, too painful, too unbelievable. So instead, I told a story. And I think that's why that word still gets stuck in my throat. So when people say, wow, what a story, some small part of my brain still wants to raise its hand and say, just to be clear, this isn't a story, this really happened. And that's the strange tightrope of making a show like this. How do you ask people to trust you with something deeply personal, while also admitting you're still scared to be honest about it yourself? How do you guide people through a story when you're also one of the people most hurt by it? I've spent years trying to answer those questions through comedy. How do I tell the whole story, make it funny, and stay honest? And over the years, I've learned that being a good comedian isn't about avoiding pain. It's about getting the audience to trust you enough that you can laugh through it. I've tried to model much of my stand-up career after exactly that, joking about my dead dad's sex list, my grief, my time in a mental hospital. But there was one subject I never, ever touched. My half-brothers. And deep down, I knew if it was the one thing I couldn't joke about, it was probably the one thing I wasn't ready to face. My brother's sister and I had always said we'd meet them together when the time was right. The problem was that for my brother, the right time had already come. For my sister, I knew she was patiently waiting for me. And I was waiting for a magical sitcom moment where everything suddenly made sense, nobody got hurt, and a swell of music carried us off into the sunset. But as the saying goes, there's no time like the present. And by present, I mean making a podcast several years later. From Next Chapter Podcasts and Companion Arts, this is Everybody Knows But Me, Episode 7, the one where I find the punchline.
I guess I kept putting it in the back burner, like, when I'm ready, I'll know. When I'm ready, I'll know. And it unfortunately took my mom dying for me to feel ready, because I think it unburdened me. I just felt like I can focus on this now.
And honestly, it made the playing field a little more even. All the parents involved were dead.
Now we get to control our story.
You get to control it yourself.
Yeah.
Your mom's dead, dead, your dad's dead.
Yeah.
Weird.
Crazy.
In a way.
And I think that too also was like so shocking when finding out that their mom died pretty closely to ours, right?
Mm-hmm. Of cancer.
Uh-huh. And it was just like, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. This we are connected, whether by blood and now trauma and these weird circumstances. And so I finally felt like I want to tackle this. I want to figure out how to get comfortable to meet them. And that's why I'm so grateful to this project, because I think it allowed me to go, oh, like, this makes sense. I'm an artist and this is how I process things. And I can dig into this in a way that feels like the most me way, you know?
Whoa. Pump the brakes, Hall. Did you really just drop that information on us this early? Normally, you let us at least settle into the episode before dropping a bomb that sounds like it got rejected from a soap opera for being too unrealistic. But yes, in what might be the most Brown family coincidence of all time, shortly after our mom died, we found out that our twin brother's mom had died earlier that year too. And things started to change. After hearing that, my heart just broke. I wondered how they were doing, how they were surviving, how they had made sense of losing their mom, a dad they never had, and how they carried that grief. This thing I'd spent years avoiding now felt impossible to ignore. Now we're connected by blood and the incredibly unique experience of losing both of your parents before you ever expect that sort of tragedy to happen. And for the first time in my life, I was free to make the decision to meet them entirely on my own terms. There was no one left to protect from the fallout or whose reaction I had to manage. There was nothing else I could point to and say, "This is why I'm not ready yet." I knew I had to stop running. I couldn't stop thinking about them, and yet I was so terrified. For most of my life, when I thought about my brothers, I thought about fear. Fear they'd hate me for waiting so long, scared it would somehow change the relationship between me, my brother, and my sister after we'd fought so hard to build the family we had. After all, life, up until that point, had primed me to constantly fear what else was waiting around the corner. The worst thing that could happen always did.
Fool me 7 times, shame on you. Fool me 8 or more times, shame on me.
But mostly, I was terrified of walking into a world where the story of Mark Brown looked completely different than the one I grew up with. Because I knew I couldn't just show up and pretend that our dad was some picture-perfect guy who just happened to have a complicated family tree. I couldn't do the whole, well, at least you had a dad thing. And I get it. I do. But I'd also heard versions of that my entire life from family members who didn't know that I'd spent far more time fearing my father and watching him slowly die in hospitals than I did having anything that resembled a normal father-daughter relationship. That was the part that always felt impossible. Telling them the truth. Bursting a bubble they didn't even know existed. We had spent our entire lives trapped inside secrets. The secrets we kept from other people, the secrets my parents kept from us, and the giant orchestrated family secret sitting right in the middle of all of it. They deserved the chance to know everything in a way we never got to. And I knew I deserved the chance to finally tell the truth. The whole story. So, let's do this the only way I know how and the only way that ever felt right. Let's turn this incredibly fucked up life into a giant, darkly funny piece of art that younger, wannabe comedian Holly would have been obsessed with. And maybe, if we're lucky, let's find out whether telling this story can finally make me a little less scared to meet them.
There were so many things that you could do that I couldn't, like your creativity, your artistry, your expressiveness in all the forms of, and artistic, like poetry and how you drew in all of those wickets that I always thought Holly got all of that part of dad and mom.
I was gonna say mom, I guess I forget sometimes about moms.
Yeah. But I just think Holly got all those parts. And it wasn't like I wanted it. I was just thought I think I got different parts. I just always thought it was different and equal in that way and in intelligence. I just was I got the parts that are good at remembering dates and make me good at tests, which is very helpful in school. But you got the parts that were could leave a mark that lasted, No,
I don't know.
I don't know.
No, because I feel no way. You see me rejecting any of this? No! Stop complimenting me!
I think you had so many talents that people didn't see that I saw.
I've loved comedy for as long as I can remember. My dad was a songwriter, a serious actor, someone who always led with his heart over his brain. We also know that he was a total character, so it's no surprise that all of my siblings inherited great taste and one hell of a sense of humor. But my relationship with art always felt very different than theirs, and a lot more like his. At a very young age, I started writing poetry to get my feelings out of my head. I painted, did theater, but the thing I love most of all, the thing that I consumed more than anything else, was comedy. Before I knew what the words ambiguously gay even meant, I was 6 years old, sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, fighting with everything I had to stay awake until the end of Saturday Night Live to catch that costumed duo's theme song.
Sometimes the best thing to do is to not think and just put it in.
My dad's entire career revolved around comedy. During the school year, he worked on sitcoms, and during the summer hiatus, he'd bounce over to SNL films like Night at the Roxbury or The Ladies' Man.
Now listen, to all you men here with wives or girlfriends or sisters or mothers, yes, I did sex them up a little bit.
So when things got dark in our house, it made perfect sense that the place I escaped to was comedy. I almost solely watched comedy movies, anything Mel Brooks.
What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
Or with Bill Murray in it.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Or my SNL faves like Superstar.
Sometimes when I get nervous, I stick my fingers under my arms and I smell them like that.
When I was barely 14, shortly after life decided to crank the trauma dial up to about 12,000, I heard a new comedy theater was opening in Los Angeles. And it wasn't just any comedy theater either. It was the Upright Citizens Brigade, an alt comedy haven built by some of my heroes. They had shows like Ass Cat, a long-form improv show with a guest monologist that's still running today, where I'd watch the original members of UCB perform, occasionally catch Amy Poehler on stage, and the best part of all for a poor girl from a broken family? The Sunday shows were free. So every weekend, with my sister in tow, we'd get there hours before showtime and sit on the curb in the blistering Los Angeles heat just to make sure we'd get in and get good seats. Every single weekend. Time out. I just have to say, that's one of the things that made growing up in Los Angeles feel so magical. Even when your life is completely falling apart, sometimes you can still spend your Sunday watching your idols, some of the funniest people in the world, perform 10 feet away from you. There was always something incredible and free to do in LA. Even for school. You got extra credit for going to the Dia de los Muertos festival at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Oh no, Miss Bonilla, please, no, don't make me do this incredibly cool thing I could only do in LA.
Everywhere in LA takes 20 minutes.
I always knew I wanted to perform, but sitting in those audiences, I realized something important about myself. I actually didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to spend my life entirely around laughter. I wanted to be a comedian. So I went to every free show I possibly could. I started showing up to midnight improv jams where the lineup usually consisted of a few UCB students, an unhoused person, and me. A confused high schooler who had absolutely no idea what she was doing, but desperately wanted to be a part of it. The second I had enough money from my first job, I signed up for classes. And I was immediately humbled. My much older classmates would walk into scenes saying things like, "Excuse me, sommelier, what wine would you recommend?" While my underage ass sat there wondering what the friggin' hell a sommelier was.
I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
But I was determined, and a few years later, I completed the whole program. moved right over into sketch at Second City, and spent years building a life where every free second I had away from home revolved around comedy. And I loved it. I was pretty good at it, but I wasn't great. I felt off. It just never felt quite the way I'd imagined. I hated how dependent I felt on everyone else, their schedules, their moods, how feeling good or bad about a show could depend on other people and their work ethic. No surprise here, but this girl had a few control issues. And I started to realize that I wanted to rely only on myself. So when I decided on a whim to try out a different form of comedy at 24 and head to an open mic at an oyster-themed dive bar off Ventura Boulevard, I didn't think much of it, really. As much as I loved all forms of comedy, stand-up felt like it was still reserved for angry, disheveled men in gross stained white t-shirts and unearned egos bigger than I'd ever be able to muster.
What's the deal with lampshades? Yeah. I mean, if it's a lamp, why do you want shade?
But instantly, it had everything I wanted in comedy. My intense love of comedy and my desperate desire to control something for myself finally collided, and a new obsession was born. I started studying the craft, and I quickly got inspired by comedians who could make you laugh at the exact thing you thought you weren't allowed to laugh at. Maria Bamford in Comedians of Comedy talking about mental illness in a way that made me feel seen instead of broken. Mike Birbiglia in his debut album Dog Years, who could tell a story so personal it felt almost invasive. And Margaret Cho, who built an entire career out of refusing to hide the things that hurt her. I wanted to do comedy like that. Comedy that could be a way to process all the dark, complicated parts of my life. And if I could somehow turn those experiences into jokes, maybe it could help somebody else feel a little less alone, too. So I spent years working my way up the old-fashioned way. Pre-social media virality and reality TV star to stand-up comedian pipeline. Open mics, bar shows, coffee shops, breweries, back rooms, comedy clubs. Every once in a while, I'd sneak little test balloons for the kind of comedian I secretly wanted to become. I'd slip a darker joke into the set. A joke about grief, mental illness, even dead dad one-liners.
A lot of my friends think that I have daddy issues in my dating life because my dad is dead, but I'm here to tell you guys I don't. I have a very supportive boyfriend. He's so kind. He's generous. He's 65. My dad worked in film and television my whole life. He worked on the TV show Frasier, if anybody's familiar. That was 3 cheers for Frasier. Most people just like silently open a book and drink tea. I think they're going like, yes, I do like Frasier. So now when I think about him gone, what I miss the most is like, I don't know what to do without tossed salad and scrambled eggs. My dad died of cancer, my grandpa died of cancer, my aunt is battling breast cancer, so to me, what's 1, 2, or 5 more STDs? You know what I mean? So I'm here for a good time, not a long time, guys. Eat that raw cookie dough.
Comedy was going really well. I was getting booked. I loved it. All I wanted to do was make a living doing silly little fucked up jokes. But even in this work where I finally felt like I had so much control, there were still corners where I had absolutely none. It wasn't just an unpredictable audience who you'd automatically have a harder time winning over because they somehow still thought women weren't funny, but it was the comedians themselves. There is a very specific exhaustion that comes with being a woman in comedy. You have to love the craft so much more than seems reasonable because the industry is constantly testing whether it's worth your safety. I do not have enough fingers to count the comedians who have sexually harassed or assaulted me, or the gatekeepers who dangled opportunities in front of me while making it clear I'd have to do something in return. And when I didn't, those opportunities somehow found their way to a man who never had to make that calculation in the first place. I mean, women in comedy were warned about steering clear of Louis C.K. years before the rest of the world caught up. So I found control where I could. I started producing my own stand-up shows, and shockingly, are you sitting down? Women are actually funny. So they became successful enough to catch the attention of the legendary Hollywood Improv. For years, I produced monthly sold-out shows there. I'd occasionally slip in a joke about my mom's addiction or my suicide attempt, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't go quite as deep as I wanted to. Something was stopping me. Dark comedy is such a balancing act. You're constantly navigating three versions of the truth: what actually happened, what the audience can handle, and what you can both laugh at together. To find that sweet spot, you have to be honest with yourself first. And until starting to work on this podcast, there were entire parts of my life I still hadn't figured out how to face. But now, I think I've earned the chance to reach my final Pokemon evolution as a comedian. And when it came to figuring out how to write about some of the hardest things a person can experience, I knew exactly who to call. So I met up with one of my closest friends in comedy and one of the best joke writers I know, Drew Landry. Over rum drinks and a fake island breeze at a tiki bar in North Hollywood, we talked about pain, laughter, and his award-winning comedy special, All My Friends Are Dead.
So, I don't know, I guess if you don't mind walking me through what it was like to start even thinking of writing a special like that.
Yeah, so, for the people listening, it's essentially about two close friends of mine that passed away. One of them in a really, but every death is horrific, but one of them in a very horrific way.
One was a really cute death.
Yeah, one was a delightful death. You would have loved it. But, so when my best friend, Ellie, passed in 2021, I was doing a lot of jokes about it, not aiming to create a body of work that revolves around it and not aiming to turn comedy into therapy, just because, you know this, you write jokes about what you're thinking about. So if your best friend just died, you're not going to fucking write jokes about Tinder. That's not what your mind is on. So it got to a point where I had 15 to 20 minutes of material about Ellie and about her brother who passed, Tucker. And I knew this was not material I wanted to do forever, because it was funny, but, it still is, from putting out this podcast, it's a very vulnerable feeling to put out any content, but especially something comedic about something so traumatic. I feel like that's the key to it. One great piece of advice I got once, because you and I both have bits about being in mental hospitals, and I have one in the first special, but that was one that I wrote in 2015. That was an old joke. But when I was first doing it in 2015, it was doing okay, but not great. And it's because I was kind of slowing down and getting real and changing up the rhythm of the set. And someone, a mentor figure, said, when you do a joke about something really personal, really traumatic, don't slow down and get real. Deliver it with the same cadence as your other jokes. Don't make the vibe, we're about to get serious now. Just keep it silly, and people might even laugh without realizing how personal it is, because you just warm them up with silly stuff. Now you're bringing out the personal stuff, but everyone's comfortable, and you're delivering it in a silly way that shows I'm okay with you laughing at this. Yes. A delivery that goes, it won't hurt my feelings if you find this terrible thing funny.
The amount of times I've done a dead dad joke or a dead parent joke, and I wanted to be it's not your dad. I didn't just kill your parent with my punchline. It's a punchline, but it's not like a Hadouken. We're good.
It's weird because crowds can obviously be very cold, but they can also be very sympathetic And sometimes that can oddly work against you when you're trying to joke about something really personal and the crowd feels bad for you, which is obviously nice, but it's like, no, it's okay. I want you to laugh.
I just feel like it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay for the audience to be uncomfortable. But there is this burden on our shoulders to make everything look so easy.
Oh, 100%. And obviously a big part of comedy comes from being uncomfortable. But it's just about finding the line where there has to be some type of release, some type of relief there. And yeah, it's kind of about, because I feel like in the special, I tried to present it as this is the end of this story. Like, this is a story that has happened, and this is me telling you. When in reality, the story's not over because I'm still in it. I still deal with these things. I'm still just as upset about these things as if they happened yesterday, but it's harder to make it funny if the audience knows that.
True. You just said something that really struck me right there, because that's how I feel.
Oh, I bet.
Yes, that is so true.
See, you have this podcast. You're getting as personal as humanly possible on this podcast, and it's so poignant and well-made and beautiful. But do you get a feeling where you're just like, after this, I'm out of shit? Like, I've given you everything. It's such a vulnerable feeling.
You know, yes and no. I love how you're interviewing me now. Yeah. Yes and no. I don't know. It's hard. There, if you can believe it, there's a lot we didn't include because
for season 2.
Well, it would also just be like, yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's like there's so much we didn't include that I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah.
If I'm a listener that hasn't experienced loss or addiction or secret families,
and most of us have.
I mean, most of us don't.
Yeah,
know.
Have secret families.
They also don't know if they do or don't. But like, if I've never experienced that, how much can I take? Like, that's what I'm thinking about at writing this podcast. And so I think about that all the time. And I'm like, literally, I've written drafts where I go with my team and I'm like, guys, I think we have to completely remove this humongous cornerstone of my life because I think it might be too much.
It has to be
for the listener.
This starts miles away, but it gets back to the point. Have you seen the movie Iron Claw with Zac Efron?
No, I haven't.
So it's an amazing movie, but it's a true story about this family of professional wrestlers.
Oh, isn't it like horrifically sad?
It's an amazing movie. It's horrifically sad. It's a true story where like everyone in his family died except for one of the brothers. Like they all committed suicide or died in an accident. And I saw the movie, I was blown away, I was heartbroken, very powerful movie. And then I was reading about it. There is an entire brother that died that wasn't put in the movie. They just didn't make it a character in the movie because the director is like, the movie couldn't handle another tragedy. We literally had to remove a dead family member just to make it just bearable enough for the audience. And I feel like that's what you're describing, where it's like, these are huge parts of my life, but I can't share them because the podcast, it still has to be palatable for people.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're also, when you're telling a story like a stand-up comedian, it's not like every detail matters to the end goal.
Exactly.
Because you asking a question of like, do you feel like you gave everybody everything? And I'm like, no, I actually don't. Like, it might have sounded like I did. What I feel like I tried to do, and I'm curious of your take on your special with this, is what I wanted to do was, I wanted to make something that kind of, for me, felt like I was setting an even playing field of, hey, this is me.
Yes.
Actually, whatever you thought I dealt with, whoever you think I was, now you know who I am.
Yeah.
So any piece of information you learn on top of this will just go file back, like it will be filed a different way that I feel like I had a little more say in.
Yeah.
Like you'll learn, you might learn more about me. You might feel like you had every piece of information, but I'm so proud of the information, the way that it's being told to you.
Yeah.
That when you learn more information about me, you're not going to be like, whoa!
It's not going to come from out of left field.
Yeah, I feel like you'll have a basis of understanding of me to then talk to me about it.
Yes.
Or something.
So now that you know a hell of a lot about me, now that I've made this giant piece of art that I can hand to my family and my brothers and say, here, this is what happened. This is the stuff nobody told us, and this is the stuff nobody told you. I can feel myself inching closer to being able to stand on a stage and say something like, all of my cousins called my dad the fun uncle. The one who passes you a joint, gives you a sip of his beer, keeps the party going with his guitar until the sun comes up. But the thing about the fun uncle is they usually don't have kids. And my dad had 3. Well, 5, technically. I just didn't find out about the other 2 until I was 17, and that was fun. I finally feel ready to joke about all of it. But art imitates life, and if I want to make jokes about my brothers, I sure as hell need to meet them first. So while making this podcast, I started taking some of those baby steps I'd been avoiding for years, looking at their social media profiles, asking my family questions I'd never asked before, learning where they came from, what they were like, what they were doing now. And listen, Mark Zuckerberg was not exactly subtle about this even before I was ready. Every time I logged onto Facebook, his little algorithm would be sitting there like, hey, you know who you might know? Oh, your suggested friends? Your twin brothers! And the more I learned about them, the more I realized there were still parts of the story I haven't told you yet. Remember what Drew said about leaving out certain things because they might sound too unbelievable to be true? Like, if I included every detail, you'd accuse me of hiring writers. Well, ready for another one?
And I even thought of another one.
Please. Uh-oh.
You know my dad worked on sitcoms. You know I grew up obsessed with sitcoms. You know I spent most of my childhood wishing my life looked more like one. Well, there's one more sitcom connection I haven't told you about. One I didn't even know the full scope of until recently. My dad originally met my brother's mom on the set of a sitcom in the 90s, but she wasn't a producer, or a set dresser, or somebody working behind the scenes like he was. It was a 7-season sitcom, and she was one of the stars. Now you might be saying, all right, Holly, stop beating around the bush. Well, I can't outright say which show out of respect for those involved. But I told you, my life will always be surrounded by sitcoms. Years after they met, when my parents were separated, they reconnected. At the time, I knew her name, but I had no idea who she actually was. But while making this podcast and peeling back layer after layer of this story, I kept finding myself overwhelmed by how many strange threads connected all of us. You really cannot make this stuff up, folks. For years, I avoided learning much about her, partly because I didn't want information that would hurt my mom. Partly because my brain couldn't handle more information than it was already processing. But standing here now, all I could think about was how this beautiful, talented, seemingly wonderful woman had raised twin boys as a single mother while navigating her side of this incredibly bizarre and difficult situation. And then, heartbreakingly, she was taken from them far too soon, the same way my mom and our dad had been taken from us. I would look up things about her, and everywhere I looked, every article, every website, I kept running into misinformation that no parent, teacher, or sitcom had ever taught me how to handle. It said my dad was her spouse, that he helped raise the boys, that he was there. Seeing those words written down felt surreal. Where did these websites get this? Why did they include it when it wasn't true? How did they feel when they saw things like this? I needed to know. I was ready to make the choice I'd spent years avoiding, to meet my brothers, the missing puzzle piece of my life. Except this time, I got to decide how and when it fit in. So I told my family, my aunts, my cousins, Kacey and Carson most of all. And I thanked my siblings for doing something they had spent years so generously doing without complaint. waiting for me. Waiting for the loudest person in every room to finally be ready to talk about the one thing that made her lose her voice. And we were all set to make a plan. Just us. Sure, by the fall of 2025, I was working on a podcast that would share this story with the whole world. But Kacey, Carson, and I were determined to do this final part at our own pace. Until I found out, completely by accident, that my family had already invited them to Thanksgiving, with their plan for us to all finally meet. And everybody already knew. Everybody but us.
I'm feeling like, I think my gut is telling me I'm feeling pushed into something that I really just wanted to feel like some ownership over.
Yeah, I know.
And that just feels so shitty, but I totally understand what you're saying. Like, we're now put in this position, what do we do?
When I was just a little boy standing to my daddy's knee, he made me cut my hair and snap, yes sir, and mow the lawn on Saturday. And I learned to pick a guitar, doing time for doing wrong. So to thank that lousy son of a bitch, I'm gonna write him a country song. This one's for you, Charlie Brown.
Everybody Knows But Me is a production of Companion Arts and Next Chapter Podcasts. This episode was written by me, Holly Brown. The cold open scene you heard at the beginning is a fictionalized version of very real moments from my life scripted by our lead producer, Pete Musto. It featured Kacey Rose as me, Maddie Wurth as my sister Kacey, Valerie Tosi playing my mom, Garret Weskamp as my brother Carson, Andrew Hall as the male audience member, Katie Hedenbach as the female audience member, Yoki Danoff as the random fan, and Pete Musto as our show's announcer. Sound design for that scene was by Earl Davis. Editing, sound design, and music supervision for the rest of the episode was by Kyle Murdock, who also composed our original theme music. Our associate producer is Ilana Nevins. Our show artwork was created by Aaron Hill. Our video producer is Emily Reeves. Our videographer is Dalton Polivka. Our animator is Justin Cortese. Our marketing team is TINK Media. Our executive producers are Jeremiah Tittle and also me, Holly Brown. New episodes of Everybody Knows But Me come out every Wednesday. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, youtube.com/@everybodyknowspodcast, or wherever you get great content like ours. Do you have a story of family secrets or darkly funny drama that you want to share? We want to hear it! Email us at everybodyknowspod@gmail.com and make sure you leave us a rating, review, or drop a comment telling us what you like about the show. Follow me at Holly Brown Comedy and the show on all social media at Everybody Knows But Me. And come back next week to find out what crazy hijinks the Brown family is in for and hear more of the stories we tell ourselves to survive.
I say I love you, this old guitar of mine.
Next Chapter Podcasts.